Welcome to a Wardrill special. I am Sarv, your faithful cogitator, and today I am excited to be going over the first codex of 11th edition, the green poster boys themselves. The Orks have led this edition from the front. Number one faction across the whole run, a bit over 57%, 448 recorded lists, 22 tournament wins. Then last weekend they put up their softest board in months, just as pre-orders opened. That book lands in stores on Saturday, the 5th of September. Today, I am reading it early, through the official previews and the leaked pages, and holding it up against something nobody else has: every Ork game on record this edition. One honesty rule before we start, and then I will not repeat it. The book is not out. Anything I read off a leaked page, I have checked with my own eyes against the photo, and where the photos and the previews disagree with the printed book on the 5th, the printed book wins. What is printed is fact. What it means is a read. Nobody has played a single game with it. Let's get into it. The facts first, straight from the official previews. 15 detachments, datasheets for more than 50 units, and a code printed in the book that unlocks the rules in the app. Plus, regular content drops for the rest of the edition, new detachments included. So, the book you buy in September is not the whole story. It is the front door. Alongside it, a full wave of new kits. A new truck with the grab and claw and buzzsaw options, new boys, a new war boss with 16 head combinations, a new mech, new war bikers, and Nazdreg, a proper Bad Moons warlord. The Armageddon box units go solo too: the Weird Boy, the War Track, the Command Crew, and the Big Mech Dakka rig. There is a command pack with 94 reference cards covering all 15 detachments, and a collector's edition while stocks last. Pre-orders opened on the 22nd. Street date, Saturday the 5th. The Army Rule got rebuilt, and this is official preview material, so I can say it plainly. The old Waaagh was one big, once-per-game melee turn. The new one splits in two. The passive half is always on. The whole army re-rolls advance rolls. Every turn, no setup. The active half is a status called Riled Up. A Riled Up unit gets a 5-up invulnerable save, can charge after advancing, and its guns gain assault. And the key design change: it is not one army-wide moment anymore. Several characters can switch it on, so the army keeps creating those moments across the game. The shooting side got sharpened too. On the leaked datasheets I have checked, Shoota family weapons print lethal hits against everything that is not a monster or a vehicle. Massed Ork Dakka critting on 6s is a real texture change, for a faction that mostly won in melee. Faster every turn, a save when it commits, and guns that bite. That is the printed direction. Now the part the previews do not say out loud, and the reason this video exists. The Codex names its 15 detachments, and 5 of the detachment names Orks play today are not among them. Equatorial Hordes, Freebooter Krew, more Dakka, Rollin Deff, Speedwaaagh. When the book goes on sale, the Codex replaces the free index rules, and GW's own preview calls the 15 a fresh start to build from. Now, one careful step, because this is where a lesser headline would run wild. A missing name does not have to mean a dead playstyle. Pieces of these 5 may well live inside the new 15, renamed, reworked, or folded into something else, and we will only know how much survives when the book is open. What ends on September the 5th is the printed rules these results were earned under, and that is not a small thing, because here is what sits on those 5 names in our records. 273 of the 448 Ork lists this edition, 61%, run at least one of them. Together, they sit at 57.9% win rate. 11 of the faction's 22 tournament wins, half the crowns, were earned on rules text the Codex replaces. The two biggest builds in the faction are both on the list. Freebooter Krew with more Dakka at 85 lists and 3 crowns. Equatorial Hordes with Freebooter Krew at 62 lists and 3 more. I have said all editions that the Orks sat untouched because the book was coming, and yesterday made it official. The August balance update moved points across half the game and skipped the Orks entirely, days before their book. The balance pass is the book. Every one of those records restarts under new text, and the next section is about what carries over. And then there is the pairing that keeps its name outright. The best Ork build of the edition is not on the missing list. Green Tide with Tactical Brigade. 36 lists, 72.9% win rate, 6 tournament wins, the most crowns of any Ork build. Both halves are in the Codex. The single strongest thing this faction does crosses into the Codex with its name on the cover sheet, whatever else changes inside. Warhorde survives too, the big generalist. 103 lists this edition at 55.5, 5 tournament wins, and every one of those 5 was declared take and hold. In the Codex, it is the one big 3-point detachment, the whole army option, while the other 14 are cheap specialists you stack. So if you want the shortest version of what September 5th does to the Ork meta, it is this. The volume plays under names the book does not carry, while the Crown engine keeps its name. Where those 61% land, in successors, in reworks, or in the builds that kept their names, is the whole question of the next month. Before the new book rewrites this faction, put the old one's record on the wall. 22 tournament wins this edition, and the shape of them tells the story better than any tier list. The early months belong to Green Tide with Tactical Brigade. Damian Cooper in Austria, Robert Moreau, Ian Power, Justin Moore, Robert Kula, John Vucetic, 6 crowns across July alone. The deep run record belongs to Stephen Pampreen, 8-0 at the Warhammer Open Tacoma on Kult of Speed with more Dakka, the longest clean run any Ork has posted this edition, on a pairing whose name is absent from the new 15. And the late era went to Warhorde, Ben Jurek, Tom Godfrey, Dan Salmons, Travis King, all undefeated, all on take and hold, 4 crowns in 2 weekends. Mark Duryea closed the Index era on Saturday at Soda City, Da Big Hunt with Equatorial Hordes on Disruption, the last Ork crown of the old rules. That is the record the Codex inherits. Every player you just heard now rebuilds. There is a second layer under the missing 5, because in 11th edition, your detachments are also how you reach your force disposition, and the early reviews already draw most of the migration map. Hold these as best guesses until the book is open, but they are consistent across the coverage. More Dakka becomes Shoota Boyz, the same volume fire idea rebuilt around infantry. Speedwaaagh folds into the Codex Kult of Speed. Rollin Deff is rewritten as Blitz Brigade, the wagon rush, and some reviewers still call it Rolling Death out loud. Freebooter Krew maps partly onto Wreckas, which keeps the pirate flavor and the flash gits, down to a pirate hat for your war boss. The one true orphan is Equatorial Hordes, no direct heir, with horde play splitting between Warhorde and the Codex Green Tide. So here is the headline with all its weight and none of the spin. The results reset, the identities mostly migrate. What no review settles is the doors themselves, which force dispositions each new detachment grants. Duryea's crown walked through Equatorial Hordes into Disruption, and whether the heirs open the same doors is printed in the book. That table is still the one thing I will not read off footage. The full slate official names, 8 you know from the Index: Warhorde, Green Tide, Bully Boys, Tactical Brigade, Da Big Hunt, Dread Mob, Blitz Brigade, and Kult of Speed. 7 are new: Wreckas for tank busters and vehicle killing, Madcap Mechs for the Tinkerers, Flyboys for aircraft, Wurband for the Psychers, Runt Swarm, an entire detachment for Gretchen, Shoota Boyz for the gun line, and Brute Bosses, a war boss detachment that runs on enhancements and does not even carry stratagems. GW printed a few of the new toys in the previews, so these are safe to read. Runt Swarm has a stratagem that replaces a destroyed Gretchen unit with a brand new identical one. Shoota Boyz can hand a unit's guns sustained hits 1, and Brute Bosses has a rule where a dying war boss stands back up on a 3+ until he is fought, plus an enhancement that puts an extra 2 inches of move and a 5+ invulnerable on a transport. The structure, and 2 separate reviews agree on this, Warhorde is the big 3-point detachment, and it carries a choice of 2 force dispositions on its own, while the specialists come cheap, so Codex Orks stay a mix and match faction. And say the scale of it out loud. The Index gave Orks about 40 legal ways to spend their 3 detachment points. Count the Codex out under the structure the reviews describe, and you land somewhere between roughly 250 and 365 distinct builds, depending on how the cheap 14 are costed. Several times the build space from 1 book before the app drops a single extra detachment. The full cost and disposition table is the one thing I am not reading off anyone's footage. It is in the printed book, and I will read it when everyone can. Here's the lens nobody else has on this book. What Ork players actually put on tables. 448 lists deep. Gretchen appear in 95% of every Ork list this edition. The Codex hands them an entire detachment, and Zodgrod Wartsnaga drops to 50 points, a number 2 separate early sources agree on. The most universal unit in the faction just got a whole identity. Boys are in 77% of lists, and the new kit plus the datasheet rework lands right on them. Ghazghkull is in 67%. Waaagh Gutsmech is in 65% of lists, and the leak coverage, twice over, puts him at 200 points, up 25, with his famous free move trick pulled off the sheet. When a unit 2/3 of the faction leans on gets that treatment, lists change shape. The truck is in half of all Ork lists and gets the flashiest new kit of the wave. And the buggy consolidation that has dominated the coverage, 2 buggies merged into 1 war buggy sheet, 2 more off to Legends, the Ruckatruck flying solo, not one of those buggies cracks the top 30 most played Ork units in our data. The merge is real news for collectors. For the tournament spine of this faction, the Codex's weight lands on Gretchen, Boyz, and the characters everybody already runs. 1 shift shows up on page after page, and I have checked enough of them to say it carefully. The pages I have verified trade toughness for speed. The Meganob sheet I read carries an ability that strips a pip of armor piercing off incoming attacks, where a Feel No Pain used to live. And the wider coverage reports Feel No Pains coming off Boys, Pain Boys, and Squighogs across the book. The Ruckatruck page I read loses indirect fire outright and gets a bigger, cover-ignoring gun in exchange. Put that next to the new Waaagh, always advancing, charging out of advances, guns with assault, and the printed direction is consistent. This book wants Orks arriving earlier and hitting harder, and it is less interested in them shrugging damage once they get there. Whether that trade is worth it is exactly the kind of question a book cannot answer. Tables answer it. What the community makes of all this splits clean down the middle, and both camps are loud. One camp reads the leaks and calls the book overtuned, some of them in language I will not repeat on a Thursday. The other camp, including the more measured analyst end, reads the same pages and sees a faster but flimsier army, different rather than stronger, with real losses buried under the shiny new toys. I am not joining either camp today. The number 1 faction of the edition just got its rules rewritten top to bottom, and I have watched enough of these boards to know that day 1 reads of a new book, mine included, have a short shelf life. The scoreboard that settles it opens on September the 5th. I will read it to you when it exists. So here is the watch list, written down in advance so we can check it together. First, the 61%. Where do the Freebooter Krew and more Dakka players actually land? The nearest homes by playstyle are Shoota Boyz for the Dakka half and Kult of Speed for the fast half, and Runt Swarm is the wild card nobody has a baseline for. Second, does Green Tide with Tactical Brigade stay the Crown engine once the field changes around it? And does its new Codex form hold that 73% neighborhood or come back to Earth? Third, the faction number itself. Orks enter the Codex era leading the edition. The first boards with the book land the weekend after release, and the Monday report on the 8th of September reads them. That is not a prediction, it is a checklist. We will tick it together. One more thing before I let you go, because it frames everything you just heard. The Space Marines Codex is already announced as the next book. 216 pages, 7 detachments, and the official line says it covers the Divergent Chapters too. Space Wolves, Blood Angels, all of them. With pre-orders opening within days of this video. The Codex era of 11th edition is not a one-off event. It is a cadence. And what it just did to the Ork detachment roster, it will do to others. When that book is readable, it gets this same treatment. The usual small ask, and it genuinely matters on a video like this one. A like and a subscribe tell the YouTube cogitators this kind of deep read is worth showing to more players. And everything underneath this video, the win rates, the detachment records, the unit pick rates, lives on wardrill.app and updates all week, every week. iOS and Android, links in the description. To the Patreon crew, thank you, as always. It means the world to me. That is the book, read against the record. Half the faction's crowns sit on rules that retire on September the 5th. The best build in green keeps its name, and the whole army trades armor for speed. Whatever the 5th of September actually does to the boards, you will hear it here first, with the receipts. Remember, test it on the table, trust your reps, and I will catch you at the next transmission. This is Sarv from Wardrill, signing out.